Thank you for being here. I know there's a lot of competition for your time, including the bar and the beach. Welcome to our panel on how ideas go viral. Now, we all know that there's a lot of good ideas that happen every day, but not many of them get made, let alone go on to be viewed by tens of millions of people and win lots of awards. So we want to dig into how these ideas go from a really good idea to an idea that gets made to a viral blockbuster. So we've got two people here who are responsible for two of the biggest viral hits of the year. On my far left is John Mescal, who's the National Executive Creative Director of McCann Australia, the agency responsible for Metro Trains' Dumb Ways to Die, which not only have you seen, you've been singing for about the last 7 months or so. And we also have Anselmo Ramos, who's the VP and Creative Director at Ogilvy and Mather, Brazil. He and his team were responsible for Dove's Real Beauty sketches, which is one of the most viral ads of all time. So these are two amazing case studies, one from a giant multinational corporation and one for a service that had potentially the most boring brief that was turned into something amazing. So let's dig in. Let's start with Dove. Do you want to start by watching Dove Real Beauty sketches? Mark?
Let's start with mine.
Set fire.
By that I meant let's start with Dumb Ways to Die.
Poke a stick at a grizzly bear. Eat medicine that's out of date. Use your private parts as piranha bait. Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die.
Pause the song.
Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Get your toast out with a fork. Do your own electrical work. Teach yourself how to fly. Eat a 2-week-old unrefrigerated pie. Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Invite a psycho killer inside. Scratch a drug dealer's brand new ride. Take your helmet off in outer space. Use a clothes dryer as a hiding place. Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Keep a rattlesnake as a pet. Sell both your kidneys on the internet. Eat a tube of super glue. I wonder, what's this red button do? Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Dress up like a moose during hunting season. Disturb a nest of wasps for no good reason. Stand on the edge of a train station platform. Drive around the boom gates at a level crossing. Run across the tracks between the platforms. They may not rhyme, but they're quite possibly dumbest ways to die. Dumbest ways to die. Dumbest ways to die. So many dumb ways to die.
Be safe around trains. A message from Metro.
It's so good no matter how many times you watch it.
I've seen it a lot.
Okay, so let's start with what was the brief?
The brief was to make something invisible visible. The idea of being safe around trains is really interesting. You would think that you would naturally assume that trains are dangerous and you shouldn't do anything silly around them, but Metro had a problem that there were a lot of accidents and deaths on the system due to unthinking carelessness. You know, a girl was, you know, sitting on edge of the platform, legs dangling over, iPod on, looking the other way, train comes, takes legs off. She wasn't trying to put herself in harm's way, but no one was really equating carelessness. No one was really thinking that being careless around the train system could actually get you hurt. And our brief was to talk to a broad cross-section, but mostly young people, to put the idea of rail safety on the agenda for them, to make it part of their discussion. And the problem with most public service announcements or PSAs is they're kind of designed to repel. You know, the standard template is that they shock you, they repel you, they're gruesome, they're dark, and they don't work on young people. You know, they laugh at them, and the best way to get a teenager to do something is to ask them to do the complete opposite. You know, that's just what they're like. And that's what you guys are all like when you were teenagers. It's the natural order. So the brief was to try and do something that would actually work for once, because nothing, you know, they'd ever done had worked. So our response to that was, well, if that doesn't work, let's do the complete opposite. And can we make a PSA that attracts rather than repels? So while the message embedded in there is quite serious and there's darkness in it, it was designed to draw people to it in a way that allowed them to share it. Because again, no one wants to be told by Metro what to do. You know, so we had to create something that would get peer-to-peer, would get kids telling other kids, you know. And again, no one wants to be told, you know, kids think they're immortal, they're invincible, right? So no one wants to be told, you will die if you do that, but no one wants to be an idiot, no one wants to be stupid, no one wants to be dumb. So, you know, it was really designed to create a campaign that would not feel like it came from Metro. It felt like it came from, I don't know, the ether. It just popped up out of nowhere. That's what we wanted to do. So that was a long-winded answer, I'm sorry. But that was the brief.
Did you ever consider another route? Was there another idea that was...
Yeah, look, early on we really liked the strategy of calling out dumb, right? Because, look, you know, McCann, our motto is truth well told, and I think maybe in the 70s and 80s this business just told lies for a living, but now it's really relevant, which is cool. And the truth is that you have to do something exceedingly dumb to get hit by a train. They're on tracks, they don't steer. How the hell can you know? We just wanted to call that out. We had another idea which was actually pretty good. But we got a very smart client, and she said, yep, that's really good, but can you do better? And then we came back with this.
Wow. Was there ever any concern about making a video about death, like death, horrible, horrible death?
Not really. We kind of primed Chloe, the client. We called her up and said, look, we've, you know that brief you gave us? Well, we're going to come back with a song. And she said, I'm hanging up now. But you know, burning platforms are great. When you've got a really big problem, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful brief to get because people are primed and ready for a completely new way to do it. And you know, in this sector, nothing works. Nothing had worked before. You know, it's just, and everything's the same. You know, gruesome, and so, you know, Metro, wonderful client, and I'm sure the Dove, you know, it's exactly the same. You know, clients make. You know, you can't do great work without a great client. And they were ready for this and they were fully supportive of it. So there are no real concerns. We could have screwed it up royally. I mean, don't get me wrong. If we didn't execute it well, it could have been appalling. You know, but you've got to take that risk when you're doing something wonderful. You've got to be prepared for it to crash and burn. You know,
right.
Otherwise it's just safe.
And I want to get into the execution, but what was the team like that described the team of people that added up to this idea?
People who worked on the campaign. So there was myself and my creative partner, Patrick, Adrian, who's the account director, who sort of fancies himself as a bit of a creative. He's not bad, actually, but, you know, he's all right. Chloe, the client. We partnered with, I think, one of the world's most talented animators, Julian Frost. You write that name down. If you ever need something done, get him to do it. He's a Kiwi, but he lives in Melbourne. Wonderful, and we did all this in-house. We made it over 6 or 8 weeks inside the creative department in the agency. So every day we could just work on the little details through the whole campaign to get everything right. It was a nice way to do it.
So how did you arrive at that look, which is so key?
We briefed to... We didn't know what we wanted. We knew the brand of humour we wanted, because humour's going to drive it. And we didn't have any preconceived notions of what it was going to look like. So we briefed 2 illustrators, one German guy and Julian, because they both had dark humour at the core of most of what they did. And the German guy came back with something completely different to this, and Julian did this, and we were, yeah, that one. And so it was, wasn't so much, you know, and the brief to Julian was do the best thing you've ever done in your life. And we really don't care what it's like, as long as, you know, we chose him because his brand, his sensibility was exactly what we were looking for, but we didn't tell him what we wanted. And we did the same with the musician as well.
So can you talk about the process of writing the song?
Most of it got written in one night. We're up against it deadline-wise. So I think 80% of wrote the song in one night back at the office and presented it, and Metro were really happy with it. Never written a song before, but I've listened to a lot of songs, and it's not that hard. You just, you know, you write them. But over the course of 8 weeks, we subtly changed lyrics. Kidney Guy was a last-minute addition, and I'm really happy about that, because he's my favourite. Our Super Glue Guy's pretty cool too. But what we did is we had the song, and as Julian was animating it, and again, really good client, you know, they approved all the lyrics, and as he was animating it, Julian was, you know what, really like this lyric, but it's not quite as funny in the animation. So we just talk about, okay, so what's a visually more interesting line? And we changed the lyrics as we went as well.
Were you thinking when you were doing this that you were creating content versus advertising? Was that ever something, because it's, you know, it's a long film that plays like a music video.
Absolutely. We were never trying to make advertising, because I don't think advertising necessarily works in this space. You know, we worked with people who don't, you know, the songwriter had never really written, you know, the musician had never done advertising work, and the vocalist Emily Lubitz doesn't do ads, and all the way along it was a content model. Because again, if it looked or smelt or felt like an ad, people don't share, I mean, people share amazing ads, all right? But generally they don't share ads, they share entertainment content. And you know, YouTube is anyone here from YouTube? Now I was going to say, the comment section of YouTube is the dumbest place on earth, right? It is, but you know, you kind of got to read them to see what people are saying. And it was almost for the first month, every comment was the same. It was kind of like, you know, what the fuck? You know, this is an ad. You know, it just snuck up on, people did not know they were being advertised to until like 2 minutes and 56 in, which is kind of cool. That was deliberate.
Was there ever any concern about the duration, the length of...
Interesting, yeah. I mean, we sort of had some people, I mean, because there's this kind of theory, after 2 minutes people stop watching. But I think the strength of it is that if it feels too long, it's too long. If it doesn't feel too long, it's not too long. So, not really, there's no set length. We had to, on radio, convince radio stations to extend their ad breaks by 30 seconds to fit it in, which is nice of them. But then radio stations played it for free a lot as a song anyway, which is pretty cool.
Right. So that's a good segue into talking about, so you've got this amazing piece of content. What was your strategy in terms of getting it out in the world?
I guess there's 2 things at play with spreading work, and I guess at the one end of the spectrum is artistry and the other is intelligence. And the artistry, I mean, you can't make a viral. You've got to make something so awesome that it just goes viral, right? We kind of all know that. So 2 strategies at play. One is just, you know, make it as charming and entertaining and subversive as possible. There's got to be something subversive about your work for it, I think, to truly be shared. There's got to be something. It's got to have the what the fuck factor. You know, you've got to take a convention and you've got to play with it. That's what people love to see. So you've got to make the piece wonderful. But then on the other hand, you've got to be intelligent about creating a framework around it which makes it easy for people to share. So make something people want to share, then make it easy for them to share it. So the video was broken down into 21 animated GIFs. Apparently it's GIFs now, but he got in 10 years too late, so it's GIFs, right? For Tumblr, which made it really easy for people to share. Tumblr went nuts, and that got it on the front page of Reddit like a day after it launched, and then Reddit pushed people to YouTube and away away it went. You know, we hit iTunes and SoundCloud, you know, from day one. 2 days after the video launched, we put a karaoke version on because we wanted to encourage people to do parodies of it and make their own stuff. So again, we just kept feeding the machine, didn't disable comments no matter how disgustingly, you know, puerile they were. Just made it very easy for people to be able to share it, you know, with their peers. Which, but again, you can use all the levers and all the tricks, but if the core piece isn't wonderful, you're wasting your time.
So what, can you talk about results? There's the results of how many people watched it, but can you also talk about the results for the intended brand goal?
Look, there's two ways to measure something like this. And look, you know, any behavioural change campaign is long term, okay, because, you know, we're in this for years. And it's 6 months old, so it's in its infancy. But there's hard results and then there's, you know, softer results. And the hard results, you know, 6 months in, you know, month on month, there's been a 21% reduction on the metro system in accidents and deaths. Now, again, can you attribute it all to this? Who knows? Maybe the moon was in the right phase. But, you know, that's, you know, but also really what we were trying to do with this, and the core goal of this was to create a framework for discussion around rail safety, to take it from something no one ever thought about to something that is in the consciousness, something that people can talk about. And we've seen anecdotally hundreds and hundreds of instances, and, you know, the client gets heaps of these where, you know, a daughter and a father will be standing on the platform and the kid will say to the dad, "Dumb way to die, Daddy, get back from the platform." And, you know, and don't be a dumbass. And dumb way to die has kind of entered consciousness. So I think the thing that you know, I know we've achieved and I'm most proud of is that we've created a framework through which we can now have a long-term ongoing discussion about don't be an idiot around trains.
Is there going to be an even dumber ways to die?
I don't know how you top, you know, some of this stuff, but look, yeah, we're continuing this campaign, and the idea of taking, you know, we're not going to revert to typical advertising. You know, we've got a brand property here that we're going to try and just keep coming up with surprising ways to get it into the public consciousness. So yeah, we're going to keep going on this.
Okay, let's switch gears and from death to real beauty, and let's talk about that campaign. Mark, can we see Dove, please?
I'm a forensic artist. Worked for the San Jose Police Department from 1995 to 2011.
I showed up to a place I'd never been, and there was a guy with a drafting board.
We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your jaw.
My mom told me I had a big jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
Kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
I would say I have a pretty big forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm going to ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm going to ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create, and that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter, sadder too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and the friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
So again, let's talk about the brief. Real Beauty had been a platform for Dove for a number of years, and we'd seen some ads since the Evolution spot in 2005. But this is maybe the first ad that equaled or surpassed that ad in terms of public awareness. Was this a return to showing a Real Beauty message in Dove ads? Talk about what the brief was, what you were charged with doing here.
Yeah, no, we got lucky because the brief was really simple. The brief was one line. The brief was basically, make women realize that they're much more beautiful than they think, which is the last line of the video. We just needed the idea before the video. But the brief was that line. And I think that's the first thing you guys have to ask your clients, Give me, what's the one-line brief? And we have that. I mean, Dove is an amazing brand, right?
Is that typical for Dove to give you a one-line?
Well, the good thing about Dove is that they've been talking about Real Beauty for, 10 years now? So it's a lot of time. So people already know what Real Beauty is. So we don't have to explain that. I think the shift that we did is before with Evolution, the brand was talking about, it was a point of view against the industry. So the industry is saying that, it's about physical beauty, and we believe in real beauty. And now we are talking about you. It's you against yourself. So that's the shift.
This might be a question for the client, but why was that the brief? I mean, what were the insights that led to that, show women that particular thing? Why that? Why not?
Fernando? No, I think it was exactly that. It was the shift, I mean, what was really fun is last October, there was a huge Dove meeting in London, and Fernando invited me to give a talk. So it was all the Dove brand managers there. And I asked Fernando, can I really say what I think? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. So I basically told everyone that, the last good piece of work from Dove, I was exaggerating a little bit, but I had to make a point, was Evolution. And then they're like, yeah, you're right, let's go for it. And then after that, I said, I'm so fucked because now I need to do something really good. But I think that helped us because it set the bar really high. But I think from a brand perspective, I think the shift was exactly that. Like I think we had a fact that was really interesting, and the fact was only 4% of women consider themselves beautiful, and 96% don't. So that was the base of everything. And then based on that, we said, okay, so let's create a brief around that. Let's make them realize that they're much more beautiful than they think.
So how did you, and just Fernando Machado's, the Dove client, is in the audience here. So in case you're wondering why we keep looking over there. Okay, so how did you get from that to this idea?
The process was, we did, sometimes we do that. We did an open brief kind of thing. So we had the brief, but I invited the entire creative department to think about the idea. And we have like around 100 people. So everyone was working on the brief. So we looked at a lot of ideas. And then we found this one idea that we thought was really interesting. But at first, it wasn't like quite there, because at first it was about comparing a drawing with a photo. And then we said, oh, let's that's kind of interesting, but it's not quite there, you know, because you can't, it's so, you know, they're different. You can't really compare a sketch to a photo. So we kept talking, and then finally we said, you know what, it should be 2 sketches, you know, apples to apples. But one, and the second sketch should be about, you know, from someone that she doesn't know, like a complete stranger. And that's when we said, wow, yeah, there's something there. And then after that, I basically told the creative team, listen, you guys go ahead and find, and then we kept talking, and then someone said, what about an FBI guy? And then we said, nice, you know, FBI and Dove and Real Beauty. You know what I mean? There's something there. And then I basically told the guys, listen, just go ahead and find the best, you know, sketch artist, you know, FBI guy that you can. So they start calling, and when they found Gil, I mean, Gil is amazing. He's amazing. His drawing is amazing, and the way he talks to the women, you know. And then, you know, we asked for his book. We saw his book. Wow, he has a great book. Yeah. So, and he loved the idea. And then when we found Gil, I mean, we knew we had something special.
So did you know at that moment, were you like, oh my God, this is going to be huge? Or
no, we had no idea. We had no idea. And it was funny because when we presented the idea to Fernando and Steve, we told them, listen, we have this idea. We like it. We think it's interesting, but we have no idea what's going to happen. We think that, knowing women in general, that the drawing on the left is going to be not so beautiful as the drawing on the right, but we don't know. And the only way to find out is by doing it. So I think, you know, my clients have a lot of merit in the sense that they approve an idea without a script. I mean, so we just told them, listen, that's the idea. It's a social experiment. We have no idea what's going to happen. We think this is going to happen, but let's do it. And they went for it.
Did you test it on any women in your life?
Not really. We just found, you know, the right production company, the right director, John Carey, Paranoid LA, and we shot it. But when, you know, the first time that we showed both drawings to the first women, at that moment we said, wow, because it's about the reactions, you know. When they saw the 2 drawings and the way they reacted, we said, wow, it's amazing, because you can't script that.
Mm-hmm. What did you cast for? What were you looking for in the women that participated?
We were looking for women that could represent well real beauty from a brand perspective, but that could also describe themselves really well.
So let's talk about, you know, again, there are a lot of great videos that get made that never get this much attention. Mm-hmm. So I want to sort of dig into how this broke through in 2 ways. First, what do you think it is about the nature of this video? And I've, you know, showed it at another conference we did, and the reaction is amazing, and especially in an audience that maybe where everybody hasn't seen it. What do you think it is about this video that struck such a nerve?
I think there are 2 things. The first one is, I think it's something that you haven't seen before. And that's something that I always ask my creatives, you know. They're like, okay, I mean, how can we come up with something great? And I tell them, listen, show me something I haven't seen before. And I see a lot of stuff. So that's hard. And then, you know, show me something that's really hard to make it happen, you know. That you know, I have to look at the idea and say, wow, this is going to be, I don't know even how to start. It's going to be so hard. So that's the first thing. But I think what's behind the success of Dove and Dumb Ways to Die is really emotion. You know, I think a lot of people watch Dove Real Beauty sketches and cry, and or they get emotion and they think about their wives and their daughters and their mothers, and they forward to a friend, and in an emotional way. So, and a lot of men also cry because they think about their wives, and you know. So I think it's about emotion, and we're talking about 2 different emotions here. And Dumb Ways to Die is also about emotion, but it's fun, it's funny, you know. And
So can you talk about how it was seeded, how you got it out into the world? What kind of paid media support did it get?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of learning in the process of Real Beauty sketches, because we shot the film, we posted online, and it started like growing organically, and then we said, wow, it's really happening. So I think, and then after that we said, let's take care of this baby, in a proper way. So I think there's a lot of merit again to Fernando and Steve, because they put a lot of effort behind the idea, because it's not only about having ideas, it's about taking care of your ideas. So we had, Edelman from a PR perspective, we had PhD from a media perspective, really helping the idea. So we were monitoring everything, 24/7, all the tweets and the Facebook posts, and we also put together like a global package, like we translated into 25 languages, and more than 100 markets adopted the campaign. So it became a global campaign, like in a completely different way, because the brief was never like, oh, let's create a global campaign, but it became a global campaign.
So going back to that first phase, you posted it. What do? You post it, and then do you send it to certain people? Like, how do you seed it in that very initial stage when you put it out into the world?
No, we posted on, I think, 25 Unilever brand channels. We also had like a session on the Today Show in the US. After that, just exploded. And then after that, we noticed that the idea was doing very well, and we found some more money. Well, they found some more money, and which is not common, by the way. I mean, usually you do an idea, you finish the campaign, it's like done. I think the biggest learning here is like, it's not over after you're done. You have to keep taking care of it, So I think, that was amazing to watch. I think that's changing the way I think Unilever and Ogilvy are looking at global campaigns.
What was the initial budget for the campaign?
I don't think, we never had a budget. No, really. It was like, okay, here's the brief, and it was really about the idea. And okay, we like the idea, let's find the right director to shoot it, but we never had like, okay, here's the budget.
So it was just a blank check.
Well, not exactly. I mean, it was a check.
Okay, so let's talk about results. It's been called the most viral ad ever. How many? Give us some stats.
I think it's up to, and Fernando, correct me if I'm not wrong, because you know all the numbers, but I think it's up to 160 million views. It got like 4.6 billion media impressions. It's just like, it's everywhere. I mean, Wall Street Journal, CNN, New York Times, Fast Company. So everyone talked about it. It was amazing, and it's the most successful campaign that we as a nation we have ever done.
And how do you think that kind of success translates into success for the brand?
I think the amount of love that people showed like online for the brand is amazing. It's like 98% of likes, 2% dislikes, like, as always, and it's amazing. The other day, my mom went to the supermarket and she told me, son, I went to buy Dove and there was no Dove left in the supermarket. I think it's related to your ad. and I'm like, well, Mom, I hope so. I don't know. But I think this idea, is about the brand. It's about the long-term, brand point of view.
And not all of the coverage was positive. I mean, the spot also earned some criticism. So how did you guys deal with that? And again, this was this tested in any way before you posted it?
No, it was never tested. I think today the biggest research company that we have is called Internet. So we never tested, we just put it out there. And of course, when we do something like that, there's always going to be someone saying something. You just listen, you reply the best way you can. But I tend to listen more to the 98% of people that like the idea.
What was the reaction to the more negative reactions to the ad? Was there any concern?
No. No. We listen, we reply very politely, but we keep working.
Is there going to be a follow-up campaign?
I don't know. I hope so. We need to find another one-line brief. It's all about the brief, you know. It's if you have that killer message, okay, this is what we have to say, then, you know, we're going to find the right idea for that. But I hope so, yeah.
Did you test Dumb Ways to Die?
No. We didn't at all, and I'm very thankful that we didn't have to. I don't believe in concept testing. It doesn't work. It kills good ideas. The mediocrity sails through concept testing. Terrible work gets found out, and work that's very different struggles through concept testing. It's a great way to kill subversive work, different work. I mean, again, you know, Hollywood tests the crap out of everything they do, and look at what they make. I mean, they just make, stuff you've seen before, because that's what works in testing. So thank you, Metro. Thank you, Dove. It's important.
Thank you. Yep, it is.
So what were you, I want you guys, John, first sum up one or two key decisions that you made along the way that made that film what it was.
Again, the first key decision was to be, okay, we never once told people what to do. We actually don't tell you, do not do this. You notice when you watch it. We don't say don't. If you want to do it, do it. We didn't preach, we didn't tell. I think it was probably the key decisions were, working with the freedom to defy conventions and to go into it with no preconceived notions, a bit like you guys, no preconceived notions of what we'll get at the end of it. I think it's sometimes, I mean, storyboards are reassuring because everyone thinks they know what they're going to get, but they're also, they constrict you to just making what you originally conceived, and they don't allow you to actually, for an idea to evolve. So that was really important. And then making the campaign inside the agency. We made this whole thing in the creative department. It allowed us to spend time every single day for 2 months crafting tiny, tiny details on it, which I think helped enormously, because I think people, when you put a lot of love and attention into something, people pick up on it, and they don't realise it's there, but it is there. And I think we get very, very fixated on ideas, and they're very important, but they're just the starting point. People do not love ideas. They don't share ideas. They share the realisation of the ideas. And it's very important that when we're making something where we focus just as much on the execution of the idea than the idea itself. And to do that, you need a really strong relationship with your clients, and you need a really strong camaraderie within the agency, because you really, it's bloody hard to get it right. And things can go so wrong along the way, or even just, you drop the ball on one little part of it, and people can tell. People can tell. We had, tiny budget and no media at all for this, and it just went nuts because people cared, and people put their heart and their soul into it. And I think when you watch it, you can tell, and that's a nice thing.
And Salmo, what were the one or two key factors that you think?
I think the first one is the brief. Talk to a client, ask for a one-line brief, spend time on that. After you have that, then you start working. Then I think the second learning is, try to do something you haven't seen before, and be ready to embrace risks, because again, going back to the storyboard thing, we had no idea, what we're going to do. I remember a kind of a pre-production meeting, because we never really had a pre-production meeting, with the client, but it was like, okay, so how you guys are gonna, separate the women? I don't know. How you guys are gonna show the 2 drawings? I don't know. Everything was like, I don't know. I don't know. Let's do it, So we have to be ready to it, because someone said something like, if you know all the time what you are doing, you're never gonna do something different. And in this process, we had no idea what we were doing. And that's why I think, we had something that's different. So that's a big learning to me. And the third one is, I think, find a clear emotion. Ask yourself, what's the emotion that I wanna work? Is it humor? Do I wanna make them laugh? Do I make them cry? Do I make them think? And you need to choose emotion and go for it.
Does anyone in the audience have questions? Right here.
It's more about Ogilvy network in general. Like I saw from 3 years, you've been doing some works that start locally in Brazil, and then I see that, for example, Burger King Whopper Face. I know that Burger King wanted to implement this in the US. There was the Coke movie that was created in Brazil, but it was like worldwide movie. There was, some experiments like this. Question is this like a coincidence, like you do very good work and then, clients try to push it to other territories, or it's been the network pushing all the agencies to make work?
I think it's both, There is a network desire to do good work overall, coming from the CEO and the worldwide creative director. Like, we need to be good. So every office need to comply or not, but so that helps. But also I think, one thing leads to the other. Because we, like last year, we won a gold for Hellmann's with the recipe receipt thing, that kind of, put us Unilever looked at us like from a different way, like, wow, those guys did something good for Hellmann's. Maybe, why not for Unilever? Why not for Dove? So let's try them on Dove. So I think, once you do good work, I think that leads to more good work and more good projects.
There's a question back there.
I think that the brand has a very clear purpose. Yeah, we want to turn beauty into a source of confidence, not a source of anxiety. And we had a very clear human truth, which was the fact that only 4% of women consider themselves to be beautiful. So actually the line that was in the brief was, Anselmo, let's make women feel more beautiful. That was it. Yeah. By the way, it was not even written. Yeah, it was delivered on a video conference. Yeah. And then I took advantage that the guys are from São Paulo, and then also Brazilian, was based in London, just to visit them, to say hi to my friends and pretend that I was briefing them. But it was like super, super simple. Yeah? And I think that the more you put in, I think that the more difficult it will be to do good work, really, because it was so simple. That guy was thinking about that all the time. Yeah, if it were like a 10-page thing, then you forget it. It gets boring. So we really like distill down to like one single thought. Yeah. So there is no real science. It was just that. When we figured out that, well, we didn't really. Like what he said is totally true. We never asked for a script. We never saw a script. The difference was that I was not looking for, let's make sure it will work. I was actually, my thinking was the other way around. My thinking was like, I'm ready to trash it. If it doesn't work, I don't care. Yeah? And if it doesn't work, we're going to learn and we're going to do something better next time. That was how we approached it. Yeah? And it did work. By the way, when they presented, there was another idea that was pretty awesome, which is in our back pocket, too, which we haven't deployed.
It's not as good.
It's pretty fucking awesome. Yeah. Anyway.
This one is better.
But you see, we don't even agree between the two of us. So like, how do I know if it's good? I don't know. I think you need to try different things. You know, like if you think about Red Bull, how many videos they upload? If you think about GoPro, which is like doing like curating and bringing videos from people, it's a lot. Yeah? And in this case, it was a home run. We hit out of the park. Yeah? But if it were not so good, that's cool. We are going to do it again.
Why I'm asking, how do you think how plants could overcome fears of experimenting?
I don't know. I think that the biggest fear that a client should have is to do average work. Yeah? Because the worst thing that can happen is nothing. Yeah? Like I never saw, like we put the ad on air and sales declined. Yeah? What happens is like you put the ad on air and nothing happened. Yeah? And that's the most common thing that happens. Yeah? So I think you should fear that, not trying to do different stuff.
One more question?
Yes, I often have clients where their one-line brief is, I want a viral success.
And we often talk to them about, should you start with one media, because everyone knows that social media are where you get the viral spread, but when you're doing these campaigns where you're thinking about, should we get out on all the platforms at once, or should we start with one and take it from there? Because you can both choose Facebook and YouTube and blogs and all that kind of seedings, but you could also just say, we'll just go with YouTube and see where it goes from there. What were your media channel thoughts about the campaigns?
I'll kick off. Again, it's the stupidest brief in the world. I want a viral success. It's like saying the brief is, I want people to like this. That's not a fucking brief. Right? Again, you make something great, it will be shared. You have no... Right, Craig, just tell them no. Right? But look, the channels we employed was very simple. YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. We had no launch budget. In fact, we made money during the launch because we sold it on iTunes. We concentrated on the quality of the content, and we just put it quietly on day one on iTunes and YouTube, and by 2 days later, 8 million views on YouTube. We didn't have this, crazy ass seeding strategy. We just knew people will love this because we worked so hard on the content. We didn't, again, we made it as shareable as we could, but there weren't magic tricks to it, and we weren't ever thinking, let's make viral. It was just, let's make something really, really wonderful. I mean, people want more complicated answers, but we're in a business where emotion and magic really are the key differentiators between success and failure, because everyone's smart, everyone's got marketing degrees. Well, I don't, but all the clients do. Everyone's intelligent, but some people fail, some succeed, most sit somewhere in the middle. So what's the difference? It's not make me viral, it's the quality of the execution, it's the idea, it's the magic.
Awesome. Are we going to... One more question.
One of the huge thing about virality is that people make new stuff with your idea. I mean, they make remakes. Have you seen some pieces that you think are good or that
yeah. Oh, there's been some,
like?
Yeah, there's been some awesome parodies. Someone did a Mars rover one which got about 4 million views, and we kept emailing people saying, awesome job, we love it. There was the Walking Dead one, which someone sort of made this whole... there's some awful ones. Some guys I think in China, some like National Association for Food Safety has ripped the whole thing off about not, washing your hands after you go to the toilet and all sorts of stuff. There's hundreds and hundreds. There's I think the Mars rover and the Walking Dead. Also there was a Hasidic a cappella band who did a version apparently they're quite famous in Israel. That was an odd one. It's never happened to me before. There's some crackers.
I think that's how I think when you have something really special, when people make parodies. I think there's a really funny one for Dove, the man version.
Yeah.
It's really funny. Man, you are more ugly than you think.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that parody, that was done like in 3 or 4 days. It was so fast, and it's mimicking all the key lines and the framing, and it's funny. It's just funny, you know, and it's so true. And you know, it has millions of views, you know. I think that when the parody has more views than the most official campaigns, then you have something really special, you know.
And you've got to encourage that. You can't be afraid of it. You've got to help people take the piss out of your work and help them to share it and help them reimagine it. You can't be all protective of the IP and the copyright. Let them use it. And some people will use it, you know, they'll do horrible things to it. That's okay. And again, it's the whole, you know, we had some haters on this and Dove had some haters, but, you know, when you do something that people will love, you'll also get hate. It's okay to polarize people, you know. There's no hate, there's no love without hate and vice versa. It's okay, you just ignore them.
Yeah.
You know, I only got 2 hate letters, which wasn't bad.
Why they were offended?
I've got hate letters for almost everything I've ever done. People are nuts, as always, you know. That's fine. No, but generally people are okay. I think we're running it on YouTube 500,000 likes and 12,000 dislikes. So that's not bad. And I like the dislikes because it shows that people are, you know, you've engaged them. They're passionate about it. It's cool.
Awesome. Well, John, Anselmo, and Fernando, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
And thank you all for coming. That concludes our programming day. Thanks for being here throughout the day, and enjoy yourselves.